25 million people across the world took cocaine in 2023. And as a result, producers in Colombia and Peru have started making huge amounts of cocaine. That's repressed the price. The price of cocaine has fallen. So for a lot of the narcos in Latin America, then they started losing money. And then so in Ecuador, we went there to make a film about the fact that the narcos in Ecuador have been moving from trafficking cocaine from Colombia to the coast, instead turning to gold mining because they can make more money from it.
Rescue efforts are continuing for a third day after two back-to-back quakes struck the country, killing at least 920 people and injuring more than 3,000. Well, let's speak now to Louise Callaghan, senior US correspondent for the Sunday Times, where she also reports extensively across Latin America. Good afternoon, Louise. I'm so sorry about my terrible voice this afternoon. It's just been failing me in the last 5 minutes. Louise, you've spent plenty of time in Venezuela. Have you been speaking to people there this week about the situation on the ground?
Yeah, so I've been speaking to people in Venezuela all throughout this week, and the situation is just absolutely catastrophic. It's really one of those ones where the earthquake happened, and then we didn't know for a really long time at the beginning how bad the damage was. But now it turns out, I mean, I spoke to a senior Venezuelan government official yesterday. He said it was a disaster. And I think only now the scale of the damage is becoming clear. And so the death toll is 920 now, as you said, but it looks like it's really possible that it may rise. And the thing is, in Venezuela, I mean, you know, as we all know, there's been really, really, really serious kind of neglect, infrastructural neglect, governmental neglect. The health system is in complete chaos still. And that really means that these rescue efforts and efforts to save lives of people who've been trapped under the rubble have been slowed, and makes it really, really difficult. So, and then now, so international aid is coming in, but it's coming too slowly in many ways, and too late for a lot of the people who've already died.
Oh God, it sounds like a very grim situation, Louise. Now, Louise, the US Marine Corps General has met with Venezuela's acting president, of course, Delcy Rodriguez. What role is Washington playing in helping Venezuela at the moment, and does it feel like they're giving enough?
So it's obviously really, really sensitive. This, you know, the Republic in Venezuela has spent many years talking about the great enemy, the US, and about how they're this imperialist force who are trying to destroy their country. And then in January, the US kidnapped President Nicolas Maduro and brought him to the US to face trial. So it's obviously incredibly sensitive. I mean, like in Trump's view, Venezuela is basically like a vassal state for the US. He thinks that he's effectively, his administration is kind of running the place. Obviously, Delcy Rodriguez, the acting president of Venezuela, does not think that. And then so there's this kind of debate and a real tension in between the leaders of the two countries. And that makes it difficult for the distribution of aid. There's huge sensitivity in Venezuela about US aid coming in and this idea that it's a kind of an imperialist force. But it does seem to be going in now. But the problem is that a lot of these areas that were affected by the earthquake are really remote, really, really hard to get to. And in the initial days after an earthquake where people are trapped under the rubble, it's important to get aid to them incredibly quickly. There's these absolutely horrifying videos of people in remote areas who are filming as people are trapped under the rubble. You can hear them shouting, and then there's friends and family who are trying to dig them out with their hands, but obviously they can't get anywhere near them.
Oh. Louise, what are we expect in the coming days? I mean, is there going to be more international aid coming in from other places as well to assist in efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. And then that has started already. So there is aid coming in. There's been a lot coming in from Mexico, from other Latin American countries, other countries in the West. That will be coming in the next few days. Journalists, including me, trying to get into Venezuela at the moment. It's very difficult. There can be this, in the days after a disaster, it's after a natural disaster. I mean, I covered the earthquake in Turkey a few years ago as well. It can just be so chaotic, and everyone's kind of rushing to try and get in. And but then unfortunately, by the time it does stabilize a few days after, by the time things start getting in properly and distributed around these remote areas, then it's too late.
Yeah, well, obviously we would love to speak to you if you do make it down there soon, Louise. Louise, you've also been very busily making a documentary for The Times, which is a new branch for us, I would say, here at Times Media, about drug cartels that are now trading cocaine for gold. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. So we went to Ecuador to make this documentary, and effectively in the last few years, there has been a collapse in the price of cocaine. There's too many people taking cocaine. There's 25 million people across the world took cocaine in 2023. And as a result, producers in Colombia and Peru have started making huge amounts of cocaine. That's repressed the price. The price of cocaine has fallen. So for a lot of the narcos in Latin America, then they started losing money. And then so in Ecuador, we went there to make a film about the fact that the narcos in Ecuador have been moving from trafficking cocaine from Colombia to the coast, instead turning to gold mining because they can make more money from it. And it's really interesting that kind of shift in economics where the price of cocaine has collapsed and the price of gold has quadrupled in the last 10 years, has just led to this complete shift in what the narcos in Ecuador are doing. So basically, at the moment, there's this kind of there's a real scourge across Ecuador where criminal gangs are setting up these illegal gold mines or taking over existing gold mines and extorting the owners and forcing them to hand over production. And then once you dig gold from the ground and sell it to someone, it's completely legal. I mean, it's effectively laundered and no one knows where it comes from. So you can dig gold out of the ground illegally in Ecuador. And what we saw when we were making our film was that this was destroying communities in the Amazon. It was, they're digging up rivers, they're poisoning rivers because they use mercury to separate the gold from the stuff around it. And so it's poisoning these areas, and obviously it's bringing huge amounts of violence with it. I mean, these criminal gangs are turning up and just digging up huge tracts of the jungle, forcing local people to work for them. But then as soon as they get this gold out of the ground, they can sell it. So unlike cocaine, which is obviously it's difficult to trade in, right? It's illegal. It's difficult to make. Logistically, it's difficult to run a huge cartel selling cocaine all over the world. Whereas gold, once you dig it out of the ground, you really can just sell it to anyone. And I think I was just really shocked when I was doing this investigation about the lack of international regulation for gold. If you export gold from anywhere, then pretty much anyone in the world can buy it without there being huge amounts of checks and balances on it. For example, if you fly into the US with a suitcase full of cash, then you're going to have to sign all these customs forms and, all this stuff. Whereas if you fly into the US with an equivalent amount in gold, no one's really going to check you. There's not really any rules and regulations for if you turn up wearing jewelry, worth $200,000, then that's really not going to be a problem. So that makes it really easy for this illegal trade to flourish around the world. And for these narco gangs in Ecuador to make huge amounts of money.
Yeah, neither of those are challenges I've ever had to face, actually, flying into the US with either of those things.
Well, you never know.
Case, but you never know. It is an absolutely fascinating story and a kind of fascinating twist of events for these groups, Louise. It's fascinating. People can watch your documentary on the Times website, is that right?
Yeah, on the Times website and on YouTube on the Times Originals channel.
Brilliant stuff. Before I let you go, Louise, 2 weeks ago we discovered that you are Brooklyn's newest, biggest football fan. Have you been enjoying your World Cup since then?
It has been wild. So the other day, Ecuador very unexpectedly won a big game, and I was out and about in Manhattan, and I've never seen so many happy Ecuadorians in my entire life. They was all of a sudden surging into the subway. No, I think what I've really been loving about the World Cup is the chaotic, unbridled joy of the underdog. There's all these countries who keep doing unexpectedly really well, and there's something, I don't know, it's something I find incredibly gratifying about all the ones that you expect to do really well doing terribly, and then Cape Verde coming out of nowhere to just start doing really well, and Ecuador celebrating. So I think that this has really been the World Cup of the underdog, and I've been enjoying it so much.
Absolutely. It's all about the drama and the unexpected. What's the atmosphere like in New York today ahead of the game there tonight?
Okay, so people actually are really excited. At the beginning of the World Cup, I really didn't think that there was that much excitement. There was a bit of people weren't that excited for it to be in the US. The focus was much more on Mexico, and there was just so much concern about, well, what's Trump going to do, and all of this. But actually, now there really is excitement building. I mean, I was in a bar yesterday, and they were playing the Egypt-Iran game, and people were so excited. It was really like the stakes the stakes were just enormously high for this. I mean, no one in the bar was from Egypt or Iran. It was just people who were just excited about watching this game happen. And then so today, yes, so Manhattan is completely packed with English tourists at the moment. Everyone's wearing their England shirts. There is huge excitement today. My invitation must have got lost in the post somewhere. They aware that I'm the world's biggest football fan. But yeah, no, really exciting.
Well, I'm sure you can find a nice, cool, air-conditioned bar to watch it, Louise. Absolutely. Thank you so much for speaking to us this afternoon. It's always wonderful to have you on the show. Louise Callaghan, who is senior US correspondent for the Sunday Times and America's newest, biggest football fan, of course.